Good afternoon. How are you doing? Well, the temperature's nice, although it looks cloudy. It looks like it's going to rain, but not soon. Jefferson says the temperature's 67, very comfortable. The humidity is 48, so I have my doubts about rain. And the wind is 3.2 miles an hour, but I don't feel it here in this cathedral of trees. Have you ever felt hungry? Did you ever think you couldn't wait to get home or to the office or someplace because you just had to eat something? You had to stop and eat something. And probably then maybe if you're watching what you eat, you weren't happy with what you ate. Ever had to console a child that was hungry? If you're older, and specifically the statutes talk about over 65, is it as easy as you get older to have access to food? Does it depend on income? Does it depend on your health? Do you have a disability? How many justices of the Supreme Court do you think miss a meal or a snack? How many in the line of making decisions about whether or not to give SNAP food to 43 million people in America who depend on it? How many people in the intermediate courts, the Court of Appeals, how many people on the Supreme Court can imagine what that's about? Don't you think these people should be ashamed of themselves? Jesuits, I imagine, would give somebody a cat of nine tails and tell them to slap their back until they had managed to feed these people who are hungry. To feed those who have been getting food from SNAP. But the Supreme Court doesn't have to obey a court order. They can say, let it go. And to my surprise, because Justice Jackson is responsible, you could argue, given where the decision came from, she granted Trump a reprieve. Now some may say, hey, it's only for 48 hours. Well, we don't know that it's only for 48 hours. Because it's 48 hours to give the Court of Appeals to act in a way that may mean people in America who are hungry and who rely on this program will just suffer. Why do we put the burden on the children? Those who have disability, those who are over 65, and many more. Why do we do that? Now, I think you would be cheered to know, as I am, that some are distributing the food anyhow. Even though Trump, fat stuff, and believe me, I'm sensitive to people who are overweight, but a guy who's overweight really shouldn't be in the position of saying, I'm not going to give you food. I don't care if you're a kid. I don't care if you're over 60. I don't care if you're ill. Are you a sucker? Huh? Are you a loser? I can almost hear my grandmother speaking about a person like that. She's very interesting. Also, how about health? How about funding the Affordable Care Act for a year? Agreeing to do that, opening the government, feed the children, help the ill. How about that? What if you faint and you have no coverage? What if you have an infection, a stroke, a heart attack, a virus, and you have no insurance? You can't pay the premium. America's decided to equate insurance coverage with health care. Fine. And once you do that, you have to deal with it. Now, let's talk a little bit about all of these people in the government. And if this sounds a little populist, it's not. It's personal. The Constitution says we're supposed to promote the general welfare. These people don't believe in welfare except for the wealthy. They'll shore them up, protect them, give them reduced taxes, and they don't give a damn about anybody else. For example, a congressperson or a senator, they're being paid right now. Why? Why are they being paid? Their staff is not always being paid. They're not even on the Hill. And there are people talking about not paying them when the government reopens. The people in Congress and in the Supreme Court, they have health care. That's taken care of. Can you experience something that you know nothing about? Is their term in office really for them personally and how they can succeed themselves time after time, year after year by getting elected? You've seen the pictures of the members of Congress. They look hungry to you. You see the stomachs hanging over the clothing. It's like Animal Farm. Heaven help me, should I defame our pigs, who are pets, by the way. You can't eat ours, and we don't believe in it, and we're vegetarians, but that's us. I understand other people make choices, but think about getting your protein elsewhere from time to time. So, we give lip service. This is the thing that I would hope everybody would get. Our separation of powers are a game of three-card Monte. Under which of those three are we to find justice? The Congress? The executive branch? The courts? No, it's among the people, fighting in each of those three domains, pointing to the cheating in the shell game. That's what we have to do. Now, I'm not religious, but there are things said in the Bible that play on this. And when there's a truth that echoes down the years of our existence, and that quote appears to apply so carefully to this, I think we should keep it before our minds. It's in Luke, and he's quoting Jesus. Of course, it took 100 years before they wrote these statements down, and Joseph Campbell once said he wouldn't trust what a student in his class wrote as a note if he read it the next day. But there's a truth and wisdom in this that strikes at what we're talking about: ethical, legal, constitutional, and just adult behavior. And so Luke says, Jesus cursed the lawyers, for they placed a burden on others that they have to bear, and lifted not a finger to lighten the load. It's worse than that when you consider they lie about what they're doing. And Johnson, the speaker, really should be quiet. Thune, every once in a while, a reasonable thought escapes their minds. When we talk about the Democratic Party, we're making a mistake. Because we will inform the Democratic Party and independents and everyone else that what this is about the civilizing force of a republic that is represented by people who were voted into office, not gamesmanship at the polling places. So when people tell us how good things are going, just stomp them into the ground. And when people play their games, covering their bets, taking the money with the one hand, just, what is Schumer about? Wall Street Schumer. That's what that's about. Every one of these people is more concerned about the 5,000 or 10,000 they're getting every day for their campaign fund. How can this stuff be rational and fair and not criminal when they'll hold a party the night before? Checks will be bundled. They'll come into Congress and they're voting for something that favors the people who just gave them a contribution. Is that a gratuity? Is that a bribe? Is that a quid pro quo? Our government is so compromised right now that it would be a fair argument that we have to disassemble this mess and put it together, and not as a monarchy, because we can't trust individuals. And we don't even approximate a benevolent leader among these wackos that follow Trump, hoping they can eat the breadcrumbs. I would hope my Jack Russells, if he dropped something on the floor, wouldn't eat it. That they would have better sense than most Republicans. I would hope that we would have the courage that is rarely found in American history. But I don't see it on the Hill. And I have my doubts about the court. What was Jackson doing? She should have said no. Get it done. I once was in a federal court in the Southern District of New York, that's Manhattan. And I had a break from the dust in the library. This is before a lot of electronic research. And there was a judge of some stature holding a complex case that had to do with all sorts of financial issues. And he had been given huge briefs to review. And they were all bound together with those plastic connectors, the old connectors. And each one was hundreds of pages with exhibits and stuff. And the judge, with his law clerks sitting behind him, said, "I'm not going to read all this. Give me your best 100 pages and do it now." He forced them in the courtroom to tear apart these submissions and come up with 100 pages and give those to him. Now, as a lawyer in my lifetime, I have, and not recently, but I work late sometimes. But when I was younger, there were cases I was involved in, and we stayed up a couple of days in a row. And not to brag about it, we had the energy, and it was necessary for the client, and it was important. You're telling me that we can't get judges off their high back leather and mahogany chairs and decide something as important as whether we feed 43 million people, whether we give hospital benefits to others? How is that possible? Have they become so tender, so distant, high on a mountaintop? We have people in America resisting. It's not just the 7 million, it's a lot more. And there are people on the bench, and there are people in Congress, and there are people in various locations. And they have to open their mouth and fight back, or we'll all be visiting camps with cots. So, that's what I got today. And it's a gorgeous day in the Cathedral of Trees. All the best. Bye-bye.